Welcome to another episode of Real Talk for today, the ninth day in the month of March 2026. Of course, Real Talk happens every Monday from 8 to 9 p.m. local time here in Dominica. And we discuss matters that are of political, national importance. Um, Tonight, of course, we have another great program lined up for you as we await Soso to join us, our public relations officer, who will be joining us momentarily. And so we just want to say how happy we are to be with you again tonight to discuss a very important topic, one that has to do with the standard of living in Dominica. Uh, we get complaints every day from persons who are just having just a really difficult time making ends meet. Persons who find it extremely difficult to just meet their basic needs, as it were. And so we're going to be focusing on that because we believe that we have a solution to this problem. What we have been doing in the past is that we have been comparing the living standards, say, here in Dominica to that of St. Lucia, our neighbor, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, and it is fairly higher here in Dominica. We are about on par with Antigua and Barbuda, but that's to be expected because Antigua is a very high tax jurisdiction, although in Antigua there are no income taxes, basically zero income tax. We do have income tax in Dominica along with the VAT, but you have a whole slew of other taxes, taxes, charges, and so on, and duties that persons are forced to pay. And all of that is causing things to rise to levels where you have complaints on a practically on a daily basis. And now with the war ongoing in the Middle East, that is expected to cause our oil prices to rise here in Dominica again. So when gasoline prices are up, it impacts a number of things. It impacts the bus fares into the city and to the various villages. It impacts transportation costs that has to be added to the cost of our goods. So that is not good. That is not good, and we can expect that all of these things will continue to impact us. So we are certainly going to be discussing this tonight. We absolutely um, looking forward to having that discussion. But before we do, let's just give you some updates on the. Let's just give you some updates on the situation as it relates to the confirmation process. We are now told that the Electoral Commission is reintroducing the use of the birth certificates, which we are thankful for. It's something that we have been asking for a very long time. We've pleaded and asked that this be returned because a number of persons were being disenfranchised, a number of persons were in a position where they could not confirm because they did not have the needed IDs that were being asked for. So we're very thankful that that has been reintroduced, so we can see people now going into doing this. We can very well anticipate a lot more persons, and we just want to encourage those who have not yet done so to take this opportunity to confirm, to take this opportunity, of course, to make sure that they maintain their list, their name on the voters list. All right, it's a very important exercise. Don't take it for granted. I know that there are many persons who have been saying that they will not be a part of it, they will not confirm, but I just want to encourage you tonight. For those of you who are listening to us on Real Talk, just want to encourage you to do everything possible to confirm. It's a very quick process, and so we encourage you to take advantage of it. So what is required now is the birth certificate along with a an ID, a picture ID, so ping pong picture. So you're going to need a ping pong picture and the birth certificate, and you can use that now to confirm. All right. So we are looking forward to all of you doing this, and we are hoping that we can get the numbers up. We're also hoping that the Electoral Commission will do a better job of ensuring that the list of persons who have registered are in fact able to not only to they're able to confirm, but once having applied for confirmation, that their names appear on the lists that have been coming out at the end of every month. So we're expecting another list on the 15th of this month. We're hopeful that the persons who have registered at least up to now and those who have confirmed up to now will find their way on that list. Also, today is a very important day as well, the 9th of March. This is the day that new registrations, were supposed to recommence after being closed off for many, many months, over a year. There were no registrations illegally, so I should add, because it was definitely against the electoral laws for it to be closed off. But it has restarted, and for those of you who have been longing and waiting to register, we hope that you can do so. Okay, so we are hoping we are hoping that you can do that and be a part of it. Okay, so let us just encourage you to be able to you know take advantage of this, and then to be able to do this. All right, so that's where we are. We are continuing our discussion there tonight as we await the presence of Glenroy Cuffy, who is supposed to be joining us. We've not yet seen him. I suspect he may have a little bit of um, of a situation there tonight. So we are hoping that he will be able to join us momentarily. All right, but we are going to continue. As I said, we are very thankful that at least we have this situation with the we have the situation with the this finally the resolving of this issue having to do with the confirmation process. Okay, so it is our hope that the numbers will go up, that the persons who need to confirm will in fact do so, and we can have a change. All right, so that is what we are obviously hoping for. Now, also, let me just bring you a very quick update as well in terms of the situation having to do with the visa entry into the United States. I know there was some confusion over it because some people are able to travel. Some people are able to travel to the United States without too much effort. One person I know, for example, had a visa previously, went and he was given 3 months. But we have been told that for the new visa applicants, that they're no longer awarding 10-year visas, unlimited entry to Dominicans, that in fact it is now restricted to 3 months single entry. And not only that, but the persons will be subject to this huge bond. Persons will be subject to this bond of 15 up to 15,000 US dollars, anywhere between 5,000 to 15,000 US dollars. You're talking about, anywhere from 15, close to 15,000 EC dollars to 42,000 EC dollars. That is what the range and the kind of monies that persons have to find. And not only that, you have to find that money, but you're restricted as to which airports you can fly into. I mean, there are a few of them: JFK, Boston, Logan, Washington, D.C., Miami International. I think 4 or 5 airports that you'll be allowed to fly into, no matter where it is in the United States that you go into. You'll be restricted to those 4 airports, and you're also restricted to flying out of them. So you have to fly into those airports and fly out of those airports. No other choices allowed to you, and that's even on your single entry visa. So it's becoming extremely difficult and problematic, and that's a situation that we have been facing. It's in addition to the ban that was placed as a result of the CBI program, and not having the CBI not basically taking charge or doing things differently with regard to the CBI program. There were issues of vetting, there were issues of criminals, known criminals, getting access to the Dominican passports. For example, there were reports allegedly of Iranian Revolutionary Guard members getting access to those visas and so. And yeah, so all right. So I just wanted to bring you up to date on that. That is something that we continue to watch. And we are joined finally by, I can see, by Coffee or PRO. I think I'm so sorry, I suspect you might have got a little bit agaway tonight there.
Hollywood as real. I'm there putting, and fully again. But also, I think I have the issues there as well. We got a prior meeting as clear. But finally, I found God in here, and let me just Dr. Thomson for being what they call punk. That you haven't, so I can say so. For listeners, for joining, apologize for the lateness. They never better late than so. And tonight, I guess Thomson for.
So I'm not sure, but your reception is terrible, and we almost cannot hear you. Not sure why.
Yes, is that I'm saying I have a problem with my I don't know. Are you hearing me now?
Okay, it's a lot clearer. Yeah,
a lot clearer. So I may have to just get closer to the speaker. I'm saying let me just welcome everyone. Thank you again, Doc, for that. You may actually make introduction. You may have the listeners, the many developments, including the electoral commission, reinstating already, firstly, taking heed of the call we have been making respect to introducing the birth certificate so that persons can guide the whole idea information and also registration. Finally, our will be
okay. So we are not hearing you. I suspect you may have a few things open on your computer that's causing your actual StreamYard to be impacted. So if you try to fix that, and then probably come back with us, I'll continue here for a little while. And so if you probably can just come out and come back in, that might help it. But we're having extreme difficulty in hearing you. All right. So yeah. So whilst you wait for this legal thing to be resolved, by so we just want again to say how thankful we are for you tonight, and just to say as well that as we encourage persons to go out there and confirm that you need to take this seriously. It's important to understand that if you do not confirm, your name will be struck off the voters list. And the worst case scenario is your name is struck off the voters list. The list comes out, say, in October, November. And if there is an election in December, it means you will not be able to vote in the elections. All right. So that's a very serious, there's a very serious concern with regards to your ability to actually participate in the next election, assuming that it goes beyond the confirmation process is allowed to run its course. It ends, say, in October, it ends, and then there is a snap election, because elections are constitutionally due in Dominica March of 2028. Okay, that's the latest an election can be called. So effectively, we have 2 years until officially or legally you can call. So you cannot go beyond those 2 years. You can be called anytime between those 2 years. We have, interestingly enough, we have the confirmation period that can go on until October, and it can even move on for an extra 3 months. So that is also another possibility there, for it going up for another 3 months. Okay, so we just want to encourage you to participate in that, and then to do everything. Okay. Now, so we cannot see you, so I'm not sure. We're not even able to see you right now. All right. Not sure what it is. So maybe, as I said, if you can hear me, probably just want to come out totally and restart the StreamYard, because we're not seeing you on screen. All right. I'm having all sorts of difficulties tonight. I hope the others can hear what I'm saying. All right. So hopefully we will be rejoined by so shortly, so that we can begin that discussion on the cost of living, because we really want to take a very close look at it, because the level of hardships in Dominica is just, I mean, unconscionable. You hear people, and especially, I'm sure, for those of you who are listening overseas, you have families here in Dominica, probably persons that you help, you support on a monthly, weekly, bi-weekly basis, and you know the kinds of demands. And sometimes it's through no fault of theirs. The situation is very, very difficult here in Dominica, and there are a number of reasons why we have this very bad situation as far as the economy is concerned. The economy has not been doing good at all in Dominica. As you may know, our export levels are at the very lowest that they've been. Production in agriculture at its extreme lowest. Even when you are requiring some agriculture goods, you can find them, or produce, and they're not available. Persons have stopped planting, so the agriculture level itself, the agricultural produce level, is extremely low. So it means that nothing much is really happening by way of economic activity in this country, and it's just putting additional hardships on people. Salaries have not been has not been salaries has not been increased of late. We've had very little wage or salary increases. The only persons actually who've actually gotten salary increases have been the government ministers, who got a substantive increase of 40%, I believe, sometime in early 2025. But other than that, the public servants have not really benefited. The public servants have not really gotten much by way of increases, and that is putting a severe burden on the people. And not only that, we have basically some shrinking, if you like, workforce. The private sector is shrinking. The private sector has not been hiring like before. The private sector has not been very much engaged like before. And so we have some problems with that. So we're talking about the problems within the private sector. Very little encouragement for the private sector. On the other hand, it is shrinking. That is an obvious cause for concern. And yeah, so hopefully, so you are clearer, and we can continue our discussion around the high cost of living.
Yes, certainly. Am I being heard right now?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. I hope this continues, because really the internet is bad and internet connectivity seems to be a problem. I have had this experience early today because I had prior meetings, and in some instances I come in and I go out. Sometimes I'm being heard clearly. I hope it can be bearable. I know, yes, of living right as we speak, before, and event or rocketing. There are a number, of course, affecting the living. So in a
wow, so I yeah, it's back to being distorted, and you not being coming across at all. So looks like one of those nights. I'll have to just carry on. Unfortunately, yeah, but let's try again. Let's see.
Yeah.
So probably you can either move, or you might want you might just do it. Yeah.
Okay, let me use one of my phones and see if I can get it done with my phones. Okay.
Okay, so we'll give you a chance to get that
Yeah.
sorted, and then we will. Yeah.
But just to give a preamble, you are no, you're not yet.
Yes, go ahead. You're starting clearly, but then it drops almost immediately.
Okay, but just in order that you let me just do that of myself. Cost of living varies significantly all over the world, the cities all over the and countries, several factors to several impact lifestyle and purchase power. As a result, under the element when the cost need to be of the
Okay,
things.
so you're breaking up again. It's like being chopped up. We're not hearing you. So as you said, try with your if you try using your phone, that might work. Okay, so let's just continue then. It's one of those nights, but we wanted to talk about the cost of living situation in Dominica, and I've kind of set it out a little bit for you, but I wanted to spend some time talking about possible solutions. Okay, so let me lay out the situation for you, and one of it, a key point, I think something that really exemplifies what it is I'm talking about, is the cost of vehicles. And I met a few young people last weekend as we made our rounds of the villages, and they were concerned about the fact that you now have an additional $10,000 levy on imported vehicles, so that a vehicle which before would cost you around 45,000 dollars, that vehicle is now going to cost you close to 60,000 when you add this 10,000 levy plus the additional fees and so on that goes with it. So there's just been a substantive increase in the cost of vehicles. And that is just one thing. That's just one area that there's been a lot of complaints about, because some young people are feeling, boy, that's the only way that they can have a really nice free up, if they get a relatively inexpensive second-hand vehicle that they can bring into Dominica that allows them to move around. And one of the concerns that we have in Dominica is that we do not have a very good public transport system. So, for example, if you're in town and you want to go to Salisbury or anywhere around Dominica, most likely after 6 o'clock, you can't get a bus to any of those villages or towns, not even to Portsmouth. So that's a real problem. If you're stuck in Portsmouth after 6, there is no bus to take you to town. You have to literally go on the roadside and form a leaf, and hitchhike. So that is the situation. So a lot of people feel that they need a little vehicle that they can move around, and that's not forthcoming. So especially now, given the fact that it has been arbitrarily, and I say arbitrarily because I am not convinced the excuse that was used by the Prime Minister to raise or to impose this levy on vehicles imported into Dominica. Bear in mind that vehicles that are many years old, they don't necessarily have transmission, or they don't really have negative impacts on the environment. These are vehicles where the exhaust systems and so on have been refined, and very little footprint, as it were, in terms of a negative impact on the environment. So I don't buy the argument that it will help dissuade the importation of used cars, because if you're going to discourage people from buying used cars, then there must be incentives for buying the newer cars, and we don't see those incentives. So it cannot be that you deliberately disenfranchise someone or prevent someone, especially a young person who wants to get a vehicle, that they no longer can afford that because of these arbitrary uh, levies that have been placed by the government of Dominica. So that is a big concern. So that's one area where we are seeing just a hue and cry. And I raised it because it's still fresh in my mind. Because, like I said, I had this discussion last weekend with some young people. And what we say is that as a United Workers' Party government, we will not look into, I believe we will remove this levy and other levies that we think that are unjustified by this government. They'll be immediately removed. and we will remove them all while we work towards ensuring that we can lower the overall cost of living in Dominica. And that is where our focus is going to be. How do we lower the cost of living? How do we get the prices on the shelves to reflect something that it becomes easier for people to afford? And that is something that is of growing concern, because on a yearly basis, on a monthly, even weekly basis, we see prices rising. A lot number of persons have called for price controls, but we are saying we don't necessarily need price controls to regulate this matter. What is needed is a complete overhauling of our tax system, our tax and fiscal system. So that is what the focus is going to be. In fact, within our 10 pillars, the 10 pillar program that the United Workers' Party is advancing, a key one is fiscal and tax reform. Fiscal in the sense that there are some programs like duty-free programs for housing and so on that we plan to introduce. But in addition to that, the tax regime, where we have a 15% VAT, where we have a 25% to sometimes 33% income tax, where we have those different duties that you pay, custom duties and tailgate and all of those charges and fees that just mount up on you, where we have all of those in Dominica. We'll work very, very hard to see how best we can actually, break this, to see how best we can lower this. And the way you're going to lower the cost of living is by lowering in some cases even removing those taxes, because if those taxes are not added to the cost of the goods that have been imported, then we are sure that the relief can be passed on. And of course, the government does have to monitor to ensure that whatever relief is given, fiscal relief, tax relief is given on the ports, that is passed on to the consumers at the homes. And so that is something that we are promising to the people of Dominica, an overhaul of the tax system. We are offering to the people of Dominica, ensuring that our tax system is adjusted in a manner that makes it even more in line with the rest of the Caribbean countries. Because if you remove the cost of shipping and the fact that we are accessing similar goods from similar markets in the United States, United Kingdom, and elsewhere, from China, and yet Dominica, the prices are so much higher than the other original countries, that tells me that what is at fault there is the tax system that exists, where you add tax on tax. So you pay, so for example, your good comes in, you tag on the freight to the cost of these goods. When you tag on the freight, it means that the goods are going to rise by the cost of the freight. On top of that, you put your custom duties and charges on top of that. And on top of that, you put the VAT. So the government gets a substantial share of every item that comes into the country. Similarly, with oil prices, and that's the reason, even when oil prices rises, we have a serious problem at the pump, because the government gets on every gallon of gas, the government gets about $3.50 on every gallon of gas, all right, that comes into the country. So it means that they keep, so as the retailer raises its price, then that 350 is constant. So it keeps going, it keeps being added on top of what is being charged. So we'll forever have these high prices at the pump. So we have to tackle this as well. Then there are surcharges that are placed on Domlec for the use of diesel. So you pay more for electricity, because Domlec imposes a surcharge that is passed on wholly. Everything is passed on to the consumer. So you pay more for your electricity. So we're talking about higher electricity prices, talking about higher prices on everything from flour to rice to sugar to cars to you name it, cereals, every single thing imported into this country. And then we have the third issue also of where you have a situation, persons even bringing barrels into Dominica. Even the barrel economy is severely taxed. People bring in relatively inexpensive items, and they have to show $300-400 that they pay on a barrel of goods that they bring into the country. So all of that needs to be looked at. All of that will be looked at on that pillar, because we believe that as we make life easier for the people by lowering the prices that they have to pay in the shops, in the supermarkets, as we make that easier for them, we are at the same time working to improve the economy, working to create jobs in manufacturing, in agriculture, in construction, in the tourism sector, in the services sector, so that people will not only be able to have more money, but even with more, they will have to spend less. So that means there'll be more money for savings, more money for investments, more money to do other things. So that is the promise also that we have made to the Dominican public, and that is something that we absolutely intend to keep.
Yes, absolutely. I hope I can survive during time. If you can hear me clearly, this problem has been resolved. To be honest, it's been tough. I've walked in every area where I've visited, and it seems to be really connectivity issue. Yes, folks will have a problem with the line. Understanding, we continue to do. I'm telling.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but so you're cut it off again. Uh,
Oh
so
God, oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah, it's just one of those
I,
nights.
I,
I will.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, we understand that happens. It's called technical difficulties. It happens at every level, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. You want to try again? All right. So, okay. So I guess we will we'll just continue the discussion. We'll just continue with the real talk discussion tonight. And if you're just joining us, we're having a little bit of technical issues there, um, but we wanted to move ahead. We wanted to move ahead with our discussion on the high cost of living that we have in Dominica, and how we will be doing everything to lower this. And that's a commitment we want to make to the public in Dominica. Because when you think about it, we have a few groups of persons in Dominica. You have those that are working for the government, who have not seen any major salary increase in many, many, many years. You have those who are working within the private sector. You'd be surprised to find out that some people are working for as little as $800, $900 a month in Dominica, even today in 2026. You have those, then you have a substantial number of elderly persons, our elder citizens, who receiving anywhere from free to some $600, but some of them $300 a month. And you have those just tremendous amount of high prices, and you have those very, very tiny incomes. And when you think about it, that's not just limited in terms of the high price. It's not just limited to the goods you buy in the supermarkets. Another area where people are really having a difficult time is with drugs, the use of drugs that are prescribed by the doctor. I was talking to one gentleman tonight who reminded me that he has to spend on one dose, hundred and something dollars. And how difficult it is for him. So recently, one of my constituents who has a heart problem, when they got the bill, spent over $650 a month for the medication. 1 month's medication, $650. And for some people, that's a lot of money in Dominica. So we're talking about high prices, not only for motor vehicles, high prices for basic items in the supermarket, cut fish, and those basic things that people consume, high prices with our drugs that are used to treat and to return our people to health. And so people are finding it extremely difficult in Dominica those days. And that difficulty is just something that we absolutely have to address as a government.
Yes, and if I'm being heard, the next time I cut off, I will not come back on.
Yes, I think let's try again. Fingers crossed.
I'm a person with perseverance, and I have to pursue every participate. But you just sort of.
All right. So
Okay.
okay. The experiment is over. We can't hear you. We're not able to hear you. So
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. We are very sorry.
Bye.
Yeah, we are very sorry for that. With Soso, it's just not going to happen tonight. So we'll forge ahead, and I thank you for staying with me. I'll just continue to discuss this very important issue, an important one, because of just the tremendous burden, the tremendous. I mean, I call it a burden, but it's more than that for a lot of people. The inability to make ends meet, and the high utility prices, and even utilities, light and water. Recently, the water bills were arbitrarily raised by, I think, in some cases, a business bill by $100, just an arbitrary $100 increase on your water. And then we talked about the surcharge that's going to impact us again because of this war in the Middle East. And prices have reached over $100 a barrel. And anytime it crosses this $100 mark, it is trouble. We are going to see probably within the next few days, or if the war continues in the next few weeks, we are going to see the price at the pump rise from the current $15 or so to $18, $19. It is not inconceivable that we will see those kind of increases at the pump. And when that happens, you're going to have the pressure of the bus drivers. They're obviously going to want to increase the fare to the public. The surcharges are going to go up on electricity. That's another problem that we're going to have already during the CAWEM, or our hot weather season here in Dominica. There are issues sometimes with the electricity and the costs going up on its own. So if you have this added issue of a surcharge, that's going to make it more difficult. So we not only is it difficult now, but we can very well prepare ourselves for more hardships going forward. And the reason why we are doing this tonight is for two reasons. One, and importantly, we feel an obligation to the Dominican public to let you know exactly what it is the United Workers' Party Team Dominica will do when it assumes office. And it is our duty as a responsible party to look at the areas that needs fixing. And one of those areas is absolutely this high level of prices. And that's why when we look at our 10 pillars, which we have been promoting and putting forward as a way forward for Dominica, we focus on these high cost of living. So that's one reason why we are doing this. The other reason why we are having this discussion tonight is because we want to force some action on the part of the government. One gets the sense that the government is not caring too much about the people of Dominica. In other words, people have to fend on their own. People are left to fight for themselves. People are left to figure it out by themselves. And that's not the role of government. A government, in my view, in my humble view, when you elect a government, the prime minister, the cabinet, and the people that are charged with the responsibility of looking after the affairs of this country, they're supposed to be going to bed every night thinking, how can we improve the lives of the people of the country? How can we make their lives easier? How can we make their lives more bearable? And in the case of Dominica, how can we make Dominicans stay in Dominica to develop Dominica? That should be foremost in the mind, in the actions, and in the activities of our government. Because that, after all, should be the reason why you decide to enter government. Government should not be a situation that you enter to enrich yourself or to gain wealth. It should be to serve the people. And a critical part of serving the people is to be constantly working on how you're going to improve their lives. Well, we don't see that with this government. We don't see enough of a concern for the well-being of the Dominican public. And I say that with no apologies. I say that without any fear that that statement can be contradicted. You just have to stop on the streets of Rose or anywhere in Dominica and ask the people who are feeling it the most whether or not what I'm saying is in fact the case. All right. So one gets the sense that this government is not paying enough attention. So my hope is that as we continue to talk to the Dominican public, as we continue to put forward our positive plans, strategies, ideas to make the lives of the people better in this country, that this government, who still occupies the office, will take action, action that will benefit the Dominican public. That's the most we can ask for. That the government can stop playing games with the people's lives and their welfare and their livelihoods, and really begin to focus on actions to cure it. And one area that absolutely needs attention is those high costs that are deliberately imposed by the government. All right. It's not automatic. You don't automatically have to have 150% surcharge on imported vehicles when you add everything together. I just, for ease of reference, just say it's 150%. That's about how much you pay in addition to the value of whatever it is that you're importing as a vehicle. All right. It should not be that is what exists. But these are taxes that are imposed by the government and taxes that they're very much in a position to reduce or to change or to give relief on. So yeah, while it is true that the government has given relief on some items, including a few basic items that are used, the problem about this is when you do this type of selective reduction in, or if you like, duty free, without any kind of follow through. In other words, the government does not check up to ensure that these prices are passed on because people are used to those high prices and they will continue paying it. Although the government may have been trying to give some relief on a few items, they're removing the VAT on some items. They call it the VAT-free items. Question is the government of Dominica following up on the merchants to ensure that the items that they have declared VAT-free are in fact followed up on? So that is a problem. The follow-up is one, but also it is sometimes difficult for the business persons themselves, because if you have 100 items for sale and only two of those items are exempt, sometimes the the work it takes to just deal with this, you might just leave it as it is, and that happens in some cases, right? That the shop owners, the supermarkets, they don't pay close enough attention because nobody's policing, no government agencies ensuring or doing spot checks or checking to see if that happens. And so we believe that more needs to be done. And that's the reason why we are tackling this problem, because I am quite frankly, as a leader of the United Workers' Party, I'm quite frankly tired and just sick of the inaction of this government, especially when on an almost daily basis, you're confronted by people who are requesting assistance or requesting help because they need help. They need help. And like I said, that should be the number one job, if you like, of a government. How are we going to improve the lives of the Dominican public? But it appears to me that with this government, it is just more misery. It's misery heaped upon misery. So as if, and I'm just going to just move off track just a little bit. So as if it is not enough for us in Dominica to be struggling with these extremely high prices, way higher than what obtains in our neighboring countries. As if it's not enough, you now have a situation of the almost near shutdown of travel, no new visas, visa suspension. Now, even when the visas will be issued, when the suspension is lifted, you're no longer going to have 10-year visas. and then you have the suspension of entry. That may very well happen in June when the CBI situation is reviewed in this country. You very well may have a situation where access to the US is completely out for everyone, including possibly green card holders. So this is very serious. And so when you talk about a government that continues to pile misery upon the people of Dominica, that's what I'm talking about. And so, as a responsible opposition that is preparing for the next general election, whenever it's called, whether it is this year or next year, but as we prepare, we are very much concerned about the well-being of our Dominican people. We are concerned about the ability just to make ends meet. I mean, we're not talking about fancy things that people are buying or want to consume. Just basic, just basic needs, just basic, you know. And is that too much to ask? Is that too much that the government pay closer attention to those needs of the people, and that they remove all of these arbitrary fees and charges and so on, just because they want to make more money, and it is going to get worse because as the CBI continues to falter as it is now, we are told in the case of St. Kitts and Nevis that they are down by as much as 70% on the CBI revenues, because St. Kitts has always been transparent. They're reporting that the CBI revenues are down by at least 70%. All right. So we expect a similar bang or similar situation here in Dominica. And so even as the CBI monies begin to dry up, you're going to see the imposition of higher and higher fees and taxes and all of that on the Dominican public. But the problem is that we already overtaxed. You are paying income tax in some cases, and on top of that income tax, you're paying VAT. On top of that VAT, you're paying those huge custom and excise taxes, sometimes as much as 45, 50, 60% on imported goods into this country. So it's just very difficult for the Dominican public and the people in this country to live comfortable lives. And that is something that we are very much concerned about. That is something that we are promising to the people of Dominica that we will address in a very forceful and straightforward manner. And addressing this problem means reviving or reviewing our whole tax regime. Okay, that's going to be a matter of priority, to ensure that where we can afford, where we can give relief, we can give relief. But ultimately, the aim of that project, if you like, the aim of what we're trying to do in reviewing our tax system is to have an overall reduction in prices in this country. So we are committing to the people of Dominica that we will work to reduce the price of goods and services in this country. We will work to reduce prices in every sense. We'll work very, very diligently on this. And we understand what the problem is. We understand how these high prices get created. Some of it, of course, is imported. So as goods overseas get more expensive, then you import those higher prices. For those of you who've done basic economics 101, you'll know about imported inflation. If you're importing from a foreign country, as the price goes up, you're going to import that higher price. All right. So you have no control over, unless, of course, you go into a process of import substitution, which is something else we have not really spoken about tonight, but which is something that has to be done together with a focus on lowering those higher prices. We absolutely have to look at import substitution for some items, flour. Can we have our own flour production here in Dominica? For chicken, fish, can we ensure that we reduce those imports and switch to better local production of those goods? So it's a holistic approach Okay, tonight we are focusing on one aspect of it, just the price side. How do we bring those prices down? I thought it was important for us to take time to share that with you. And I'm trying to do it in as basic, as simple, and uncomplicated a way as possible. Okay, and I'm going to try for the next few minutes. I'm going to try to recap or review what we've been talking about earlier. Okay, so we've identified a major problem in Dominica. And that is a problem that every single household in this country, every single person understands is a problem in this country. And that is the extreme high prices that we find in the supermarkets and the shops, that we find that we have to pay for goods and including very high prices for medical services. Now people are talking about bills of $10,000 for operation, $8,000 to do an operation in Dominica, $20,000. Monies that before were you never heard about. Okay, so you have very high prices for goods and services in this country. A major part of the reason why our prices in Dominica are higher or so high and much higher than prices in the neighboring countries is because of our tax regime. In other words, the taxes that we have in place. So that when the goods come into the port, you taxes on those. You add the freight on top of the freight, you add custom duties, you add tailgate, you add other port charges, excise duties are added on this, all sorts of charges that goes with the port are added on this. And on top of all of that, you have the VAT. So you bring everything up and then you tack on an additional 15%. In the case of motor vehicles, recently we've had a $10,000 levy added on imported motor vehicles. And now we have almost 150% is what you'll pay in addition for anything imported, motor vehicles imported. You have persons who bring in just barrels into Dominica, those very high charges. Now, I know that's a sensitive area because I've heard people argue that when people are bringing in barrels, say from overseas, if you allow them to come in to bring it in free of charge, then that will hurt the local businesses. But I'll go a step further. I'll say the way you deal with this, the barrels are coming into Dominica because people believe that they can get those goods way cheaper in the United States. And even after they pay duties on it, it is still cheaper than what they would get at the store. But wouldn't it be a wonderful thing that the persons who are sending the barrels into Dominica, sending the barrels, they send the cash that individuals can now go to the supermarket and buy. But that will only happen if the price at the supermarket, the price at the shops are relatively low and competitive. Okay, so if you're buying an item, let's just do a very rough example. You're buying an item, let's say a tube of Colgate for $3 in the United States, $3 US. And then when it comes to Dominica, you send it down, your person receiving it there, they pay the custom duties. At the end of the day, they probably end up paying let's say $3.50, all right, for that tube of Colgate. So that's roughly, let's say $10, $10. Now, if that same tube of toothpaste in Dominica currently costs $17, it makes sense to keep sending the barrel down, okay? Because if you compare the $10 that you're paying with the barrel compared to $17 that you have to pay in the local store. But if your responsible government is able to lower the cost in the supermarket so that it's no longer sold for $17, but it can be sold for $12, then the person sending the barrel says, well, I don't have to go through the whole hassle or the hustle of going for a barrel, filling it up, shipping it. I'll just send the money for my family in Dominica. They can go to the supermarket and buy the same item. They would not mind a small variation. The problem is where there is such a huge divergence in the prices that it makes sense for those barrels to keep coming. But there is still a significant number of Dominicans who do not have access to this barrel economy, and so they have to buy in the shops. And that is why I'm saying a responsible government must look on how to reduce those. So that is what we are committed to. We will do everything as a government to lower the high cost of living. And the way we're going to do this is that we're going to revise and review the tax rates that are imposed on goods and services coming into this country. Personally, I believe that there is something fundamentally wrong with the way those duties are imposed on the people of Dominica, and we'll work to fix it. We'll work where we believe it is fair and reasonable. Today, we don't believe it is fair, nor is it reasonable, the kind of charges that have been imposed on the people of Dominica. And the one that really tops it up is this arbitrary $10,000 levy that has been imposed on the importation of cars, which is something that even before we even think of reviewing, we are going to remove because it's unfair. Just by its very nature, by the way it's been imposed, it is wrong, it will be removed. But the rest, obviously, that will take some time because you have to ensure that all of that is done. It has to go for Parliament to be approved and so. But it's something that we'll absolutely work on doing so that we can improve the lives of the people of this country. That is what we are committed to. That is what we believe that we can do differently from this government. Because we do care, we understand the role of government, we understand why a government is elected into office to look after the needs of the people. And that's why I keep saying over and over again, government, a prime minister, a cabinet should be going to sleep every night thinking how we can better the lives of the Dominican public. It is not happening. We have been given the raw end of the stick under this government. And just today, as we kind of wrap it up, I was talking to a gentleman today, and he was saying, but I don't know, he's visiting. He is a Dominican. He's a Dominican, sorry, but he was overseas. And we had a conversation, and he was saying, but I can't understand. I really don't understand the Dominican public. How can you be voting the same government for 25 years? How is that even why do you think that there is some benefit to you to vote the same government for 25 years? And I thought about this, and I was trying to figure out which country that voluntarily votes in a government for all those years. Anyway, government lasts for that length of time is because it's a dictatorship. I'm not saying that we have that in Dominica. I'm saying that in most countries where you have a government lasting this long, is because the government is a dictatorship. It either steals the elections or it just does not call. It has bogus elections every time, But one can argue that in the case of Dominica, people have been voting in sufficient numbers for this government for 25 years, and at the end of the day, that's what we get. We get a government that's completely uncaring, that continues to raise its revenues on the backs of the same very small working population. It does nothing to expand the private sector. It does nothing to slash government spending and provide more benefits to the people. It does nothing to assist its farmers. It does nothing to grow the economy. It's really a do-nothing government, and almost, like I said, cavalier, uncaring kind of government. That is what we have in this country, and that is what we are committed to fighting. That's what we are committed to really telling the Dominican public enough is enough. It's time we take a stand. It's time we stand up. It's time we say, hey, enough is enough. We've had enough of this government. We've had enough of this maladministration, and we are going to do something about it. And so that is the situation that we're in. That is where we are. And that is what we can offer to you, the Dominican public. A chance to review, a chance to reform, a chance to fix, a chance to make it better for you, the Dominican public. And so that's why we encourage you to give us the kind of support that we require, to provide the kind of support that we need to ensure that we can meet those goals that we set. Okay. So we have been thinking about it. We have been thinking about it and we have been working on it, importantly. And that's why tonight we can offer you some solutions. That's why tonight we can offer you a way forward. Because it's something that we have been working on, improving upon, and identifying. So tonight we've identified the high cost of living and how we can tackle it, what we will do for it. Next week we'll continue in the same vein as we continue to impress upon you the importance of the 10 pillars. So we just heard tonight the 10 pillar, which is a reform of the tax system. And the reason why we think that it's a problem, the reason why we believe the United Workers Party government is in a better place to remedy that situation. And next week we'll continue on that vein. We'll talk about efforts that we're going to put in place to reform the economy. Because as we reform our tax system, in some cases we are going to be slashing some rates. I'm sure I can't tell you by how much. I see someone is suggesting that we cut the VAT by 50%. I can't say it will be 50% or 40 or 60% just yet, because we have to do that in a very responsible manner. Okay, but we'll be looking to make some cuts. But as we do that, as we prepare for a loss in tax revenues from the existing tax structure, then the way we make up for that is by growing the economy. Because as you grow the economy, there will be more opportunities to tax. There'll be more volume being taxed, more value being taxed. And so the government will not suffer unduly. So that is how we intend to do it. So there are two sides to this equation. Tonight, we're talking about making it more comfortable, making it better, improving the lives of the Dominican public by cutting down on the high prices. Next week, we'll talk about how do we improve the economy so that we can provide better jobs, provide more incomes, put more money into the pockets of the Dominican public that they can then go on to spend. So that is what this is all about. It's about caring for the Dominican public. It's about ensuring that we first and foremost, look at what happens to the Dominican public and how we can improve on things. By the end of the day, I just want to encourage our people to hold strong. I know it's like I said, it's extremely difficult. I talk to people every single day, and the cry is the same. Things are tough, difficult to make ends meet. People dread the medical bills that come in, the bills for medicines and so on. They dread those things. Just don't have it. They just don't have the income. And so we are very much attentive to those calls, to those concerns, and that is why we aim to address those and revising, reviewing, reforming our tax regime, our tax system is very, very high on the agenda. It's very high in terms of the priorities amongst the 10 pillars. That's what we offer. That's what we promise to the Dominican public. As you can see, we're deliberately not talking about percentages and cuts and numbers, and that you will get later on. But we have a commitment to doing it because ultimately we want to at least be competitive with one another. We want St. Lucians to come to Dominican shop. We want Grenadians to come to Dominican shop. We want those from Martinique and Guadeloupe to come to Dominica on the excursions and on the ferries and shop and buy in our shops. That can only happen if the prices are competitive. All right. And so as we look for ways to better harness the million French people to north and south, as we look for ways to better that, you'll be in a lot more of our plans in that regard. One thing I just want to leave with you tonight is the commitment of the United Workers' Party, the party that I am privileged to lead, is our commitment to bettering the lives of the Dominican public, is our commitment to improving the lives of the average person, the young person, the not so young, the elderly, the needy, the worker, the unemployed, is to improving your lives. And that is the commitment that we give to you, that's the commitment that we make. And that's what we will do. But we can only do that with your support. We can only do that if you decide that, yeah, we deserve the chance as a party, as a new government. And so we are looking to you, Dominica, for the support. And as we end, let me just encourage you we'll continue on that theme. In fact, the theme that we're having for our next national meeting, we'll be having a big national meeting just over, well, 12 days time, 2 days shy of 2 weeks. We'll be having, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, we'll be having a national meeting in Layu. And the theme of this national meeting is the high prices in Dominica. So we look forward to talking to you more on this. We'll probably use that opportunity to make some more bold pronouncements. But we want you to come out in your numbers, in support, show your support, come out. This will be Saturday evening. We'll also be commemorating the March 19 events of last year, which saw the arrest of 25 patriots, including myself, for standing up basically for electoral reform, which has now been grudgingly given, in part, partial, not what we got arrested for, we fought for last year, but we'll also be commemorating that at the rally on the 21st, because 19th March is the big day. But we are doing it on the 21st. All right. So 21st of March, join us in Layo, where we'll continue our discussion. You'll hear from different speakers. You'll hear from different individuals from within the party. You'll hear from different persons just, talking about how things are with them in this country. And so we look forward to talking to you then at the national meeting, March 21st. But until then, we'll join you again next week for another edition of Real Talk. And we'll be on the radio, of course, on Thursday with the Workers' Voice, our weekly radio program from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock on Q95 and also on social media platforms. So whatever you do, look for us on Thursday and on Monday and the next week, Saturday, in Layo, as we continue to reveal to you the new look United Workers' Party, committed to bring development to this country, committed to bringing solid change to this country, committed to putting money into the pockets of the Dominican public, and committed to making Dominica a much better place than it currently is. So let me say again, good night and God bless. Thank you for listening. And let me just apologize as we end for Soso. He had some serious issues there, technical issues, that he was not able to join us. Nonetheless, we were able to talk to you, and that's what it's all about. It's about a conversation. And to all of you for all your good comments, let me thank you for your support as well. We have persons who listen constantly every week, who are committed to listening, who are committed to our broadcast, and I thank all of you. And thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your comments. We normally, at the end of the program, we normally get an opportunity to go back in and follow and read and understand your suggestions and your comments. So thank you so much. I could not do that very well tonight because I was focused by myself on this. But if there are any important concerns and issues raised this week, we'll discuss them next week. But by all means, thank you for listening, and put that in the calendar, and see you in Layu, March 21st, 6:30 p.m. in the evening. Until next week, have a good night, everyone. God bless you, and bye-bye.